Welcome along, everybody, to ALR Bronze Season 9, Round 8 here in Montreal, Canada. And it is a bit overcast in Canada then for the start of qualifying then as we get ourselves ready to get going then. 20 drivers on the grid then ready to race around here as well then. And we have got ourselves set up and ready to go then for qualifying, start the grid, or set the grid I should say then, to start off round 8 then of season 9 then. Gina says, evening all then, good luck to everybody as well. Then we'll run through the championship standings then, shall we, as we get ourselves ready to get started and wait for the first people out on track. Then Luke leads the way then for the kick sour, then 112 points for the kick sour. Then he's being chased down by Dan in the Alpine, then 109 points now for Dan, and 92 points then for Dynamo Dan, then former teammates the Dan's last season. And of course, confusing the hell out of the commentators as per usual. Yeah, so go Dynamo Dan then in P3 in the Red Bull, then in the championship standings. Then Jinner and Serious Mushroom then in close contention behind there for trying to get themselves in the top 3. Then potentially tonight, then that could happen as well. Then Smithy Almighty then in P6, then Hungry Stars P7, Corey Brennan then in P8, then Mr. Elite then in P9, and we've got Winnie rounding off the top 10 as it stands. In the constructor standings for bronze, we've got Kick Sauber leading the way, then 174 points then for Kick Sauber. That is, of course, Luke and Smithy. And, of course, bronze then scoring from P1 down to P15 then this season as well. Then it's a bit different scoring than traditional, but that is why there's some extra points then on board then for bronze then. And why you should always keep going in a bronze race then, because you can never know what might happen. You might be able to get yourself a couple of points here or there then. In P2, Aston Martin, then Serious Mushroom and Winnie then doing a fantastic job then for the Aston Martin outfit. Then P2 in the constructors, then 130 points, then 44 points, but behind the leaders as it stands then. And Alpine then of Dan and Vintage and 117 points then for the Alpine team then in P3 in the constructors. Then P4 is Haas on the same points, 117 points, so Haas might be able to get themselves back in the top 3 then here tonight. Then we'll have to wait and see. Then McLaren P5 with 116 points, so only 1 point behind the Haas and the Alpine teams. 105 points for Williams then in P6, then Red Bull in P7 and 92 points, then RB Honda or whatever you want to call them in P8, then Ferrari P9 and Mercedes then are bringing up the rear then. But last but not least, let's just say then for the Mercedes team, Williams have got a new driver. Sorry, it's Liam. Then Liam stepping into the vacant Williams seat then to take away the full-time tribute then, I should say, then to the second half of the season, and of course the final round of the first half of the season, which is here tonight. And Liam then of course has reserved in bronze before then, but he's now taking the seat full-time. Then let's see what Liam can do then on his first full-time appearance then here in Canada then for the Williams team, as we fly down towards the final chicane, which of course is a bit of a yes, it's a bit of an interesting corner, let's just say that. It's a Wall of Champions for a reason then, but Liam has avoided that, and let's see what he can do then. It's a 10.6, puts himself of course fastest on the board for the time being then. A good time indeed then to start off the qualifying campaign. Then 14.5 minutes left of the session, and Jinner is on medium compound tyres heading around the hairpin. We'll come back to, no, we'll stay on board with Jinner then, because he is going to be the next man to cross the line then. Dynamo Dan has said Dynamo Dan as well in the comment section. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let's go Dan as well then from Eben as well then. And someone did a rain dance, says Luke then. So goodness me, we might see some rain on the horizon here tonight. Then Jinner has gone fastest with a 9.9 on medium compound tyres. Pretty good stuff indeed. Very good stuff indeed, I should say then. Sam Newton is in the Ferrari then tonight. Then he's reserving in his first ALR appearance, I believe. 10.9 then for the Ferrari, then puts himself P3 for the time being. Good stuff indeed as well. And I think we've got Mr. Elite starting off a lap as well, then going through the first couple of corners. And I've had a very large dinner then, and it's coming back to bite me then already at the start of this qualifying session then. So hopefully if I don't have to rush off to the toilet then during this qualifying or during this race as well then, because the 35 laps of action going to unfold then straight after the qualifying as well then. Corey then flying through the first chicane and looking pretty good indeed then, very quick indeed as well then. Of course he's done 19.6 in the first sector then. Let's see what we can do then. A very good result, a podium last week of course in Spain, I think it was, goodness me, as Dynamo Dan then sending off to start a lap then here in Canada. Then Mr. Elite is flying that Haas then through the final chicane, then heading down towards the hairpin. And let's see what he can do tonight. Then purple in sector 2 is looking promising indeed then for Mr. Elite then, as he rounds that hairpin now, and then onto the back straight we go, then flying along then. Can he get that DRS open then and get himself into the we're looking at the 1 minute 9s then for the qualifying at this moment, that is. Can anybody get themselves into the 1 minute 8s? Then we'll have to find it out. But let's see then. Through the final chicane then goes Mr. Elite, then bumping over the curves, then a little bit wide, then almost into the Wall of Champions there as well then for the Haas driver. Then let's see what he can do up to the line. It's a 10.4, puts himself P2 on the front row of the grid then. Very good stuff indeed. But Corey's done something better. He's done a 10.3, then puts himself onto the front row instead of displacing Mr. Elite down to P3. Then Corey then onto the front row of the grid, and a fantastic time indeed for the Williams driver. Kamara Racers put €5 as well then. Thank you very much to Kamara Racer then. Imran hello all racers as well then. Good luck bronze then, and fantastic stuff indeed. Thank you very much for your support then. We appreciate that, Kamara Racer then. You are a star indeed then as well. And Jake the Slayer said yo everyone, and yo everyone to you too, sir. there we go. Done down to a 10.0, puts himself P2, and well, they're battling for P2 it seems at this stage in qualifying. Then we've got yellow flags out there for someone or other. Then as we go through the final chicane for Styles, then he's gone a bit wide again. Then same as his teammate there as well. Then up to the line, it's a 10.1, puts himself P3 for Styles. Then good stuff indeed. Then like I was saying just before, Styles coming through the final chicane. Then we're seeing quite a few battling drivers in this qualifying. Then, but they are battling for P2 because Jenner has done a 9.9 then on the medium compound tyres as well. Then he's now onto a set of soft compound tyres, which is going to be very formidable indeed then for his counterparts. Into the pit side comes Mr. Elite. Then Ginger Age is on circuit, then going through into sector 2. Then where is Umabro? He's further along. Then let's see what the Mercedes driver is doing. Then heading into the final sector now. Momentarily, there he is, 43.0 then for sector 2 then for Umabro, and let's see what he can do then in the final sector. Then lots of ERS to burn, then down this back straight then, and heading into the final chicane, then making sure you avoid the wall of champions then, which is I think a bit easier then on this game, to be fair, to try and avoid, that is. But not saying that anyone can't do it, but I'm sure somebody will get claimed by the wall of champions then very soon, as Umabro then going through then onto almost on the grass then as well, then heading into their final corner, and now up to the line it's a 12.1, puts himself P8 for the time being then for Umabro. And then he was having technical difficulties at the beginning of this session, then hopefully he can get that sorted, or it has been sorted as we go through now. Very good stuff indeed. Right then, we've got, where is Ginger Age? Ginger Age done 11.6 then, puts himself P8 for the time being then, that's good stuff indeed. Then where is the other action on track? Then Umabro is also coming back to the pit now, I think. Then he's invalidated his time then. Dynamo Dan is back out on lap, then Jidder is coming through then through the first couple of corners, and where is Dynamo Dan? Then Dynamo Dan's invalidated his time then on his second attempt, then so he's going to have to come back to the pit lane. Here comes Jidder then into sector 2, then Purple, then 42 thousandths of a second, improving on his current time, which of course is currently pole position as well then. But he is looking pretty strong indeed then, and so far so good then. And Ballant said hi everyone as well. Then good luck then to Ballant as well in this race as well. He is currently he's in the Red Bull then, he's not got a time on the board just yet. Then Jenner then coming into the hairpin then to finish off sector 2. Then Purple again, then he's almost 3.5 tenths up on his previous time. Then that is a fantastic improvement then, and could cement his position at pole position for the time being. Then he's going to get a nice tow as well then down the back straight from this Red Bull, or Racing Bull, sorry, goodness me. And well, I'm not quite sure the Racing Bull. I think that's Ginger Age then, goodness me, giving him a nice tow down the back straight there as well. And yes, there we go then, heading into the final chicane. And let's see what Ginner's going to do then here in the final attempt, then his second attempt I should say. Goodness me, it's a 9.471, and that's improved by almost, what was that, half a second almost there. Well, 4.5 tenths, let's just say then, but brilliant stuff indeed, a good improvement nonetheless then. Of course then it puts himself into the 9s even further then, and here's the only driver so far then in the 1 minute and 9s as it stands in, but Liam might have something to say about that as well. Then Liam coming through the final chicane now, and crossing the line momentarily. Then here he comes then, flying up to the line then for Liam. Then what's it going to be? It's a 10.4. Then he improves by almost 2 tenths of a second, but he stays P7 for the time being, just behind Sam Newton, who's back on track as well then in the Ferrari, and flying through sector 1 then. Good stuff indeed so far from Sam Newton. Then let's see if he's improving to 3 tenths of a second. Then that's a massive improvement then in the first sector alone, that is. Oh dear, that car got a bit slippery then over the curbs then in sector 2 though. Might have lost him a bit of time there as well, and we'll come back to him. We've got Jake the Slayer then coming down the back straight, but he's going very slowly there, is Jake the Slayer, so I'm not quite sure what is going on there. But the Haas has gone through then. Real Ashton said, watching from Deepdale, and then of course Real Ashton unfortunately missing the race then, which is a big shame, but he is off to watch, I think it's Preston North End then in the championship, or whatever league it is. Not quite sure, sorry about that, but there we go. And yes, good stuff. Well, hopefully it's horrible stuff for you Real Ashton, and you can join us once again then for bronze instead in the future. Then never go to a football game, then always race in ALR bronze. But yeah, there we go then. Fantastic stuff indeed then. Good luck then to Preston North End as well. I think that's a who you support. I'm not quite sure. Hopefully I got that right. Otherwise, sorry. So there we go then. Happy Pancake Day from Ginger Age as well then. And well, anything but pancake then for Ginger Age, isn't he? He's a very voluptuous and lovely juicy boy. But there we go then. Sorry about that, Ginger Age. 9.8 then for Sam Newton, then puts himself on the front row of the grid then on his first reserve appearance, then looking pretty good indeed then to rival Jenner potentially here. Corey Brennan then is up to P4 then onto the second row of the grid then with a 10.0. Mark Smith said, how am I cheating, says Oh dear, then as we've got people check, good luck Luke from Amsterdam then compared is normally watching over your shoulder then. As Rocket Wolf then has said that to, I think to Luke then, who's in the Kick Sauber tonight then, but unfortunately for the Kick Sauber then, he's not got the time on the board just yet then for us to compare then to the likes of Jenner Sam Newton, although he has done a time, sorry goodness me, then he's done a 9.4 on his first outing here in qualifying then, which is pretty impressive stuff indeed. Then the championship leader then is on pole position as it stands, and that is pretty impressive stuff indeed as well, so he missed it completely, and well, that's not impressive, it's quite normal to be fair for me, but well done indeed then to Luke, then currently on pole position, then Jinder back in the pit, same for Sam Newton as well, then Styles up into P4, then displacing Dynamo Dan and Corey Brennan down to P5 and P6, but Dynamo Dan is on a lap here, then heading through the hairpin, making sure hopefully that Haas, then it's a Haas of Mr. Elite then, doesn't get in the way then, but I think Mr. Elite then is a bit too far away then, or is he going to be in the way? I'm not quite sure. Then we'll come along the back straight then for Dynamo Dan then. He's negotiated the traffic very nicely. They've got out of the way for him. Heading into the final chicane then for Dynamo Dan. Oh dear. Over the curve a bit then as well. Coming up to the line then. Let's see what it's going to be then for Dynamo Dan. It's a 10.0. He's improved by 8,000 a second, but he stays P6. As Dan then in the Alpine has got himself up into P4. Then the 109s are tumbling in now. Then the top 5 in the 109s here. And that is looking pretty quick indeed then out there in bronze tonight then. Dukanko up into P8 then as well then. Very good stuff indeed. Then wet race as well apparently then. That's what interesting stuff indeed. I'm joking. Racing balls then. Good stuff as well then. Yes, happy pancake day then to Sean. Of course, get your pancakes out and let us see your pancakes and all of that. Then Astrojon then at P12 for the time being, a 10.8 on his first attempt. IRS then as well, then a 12.5, then rivaling his teammate then for P15. As it stands in Smithy is on track as well. Then there's yellow flags fluttering at the hairpin. I think there's a slow McLaren there trying to get himself back into the pit lane. Then here comes Smithy then into sector 3 around that long hairpin then as well. It's just in the eagerness to get the power down as well as you go out of that sector. Then too eager then, and of course you spin the car as we head on to the back straight. Then DRS available then for the kick out, and then he's gone almost into the wall then somehow. Maybe not looking where he's going exactly then, but we head into the final chicane. There's I think that McLaren just about got himself into the pit lane away from Smithy's eye line just in time as well. Then here comes Smithy up to the line. Then what's it going to be? It's a 10.1, puts himself P9 for the time being then. As Balance says, Rocket Wolf said, what are you doing here, says Luke then, and hello there from Chazza as well then. Of course, Chazza now a full-time gold driver as well then, so good stuff indeed. Very good stuff indeed. Hope the site is doing well for you, sir, or pal, I should say. Then as we go through with Jinder then down towards the final chicane, then can he improve on a 9.4? Can he displace Luke then down to P2 or further as we go through then into this qualifying session? Then Jinder then can he take back that pole position? Then no, he can't. Then he stays P2 for the time being and does not improve on that lap as well. Then stays on the front row of the grid though, but unfortunately not able to pip Luke to the post on the second attempt then as well. Then he's still got time to go back round and go again though, so we'll come back to that one. Mapper then heading into sector 2 then, and I think that said 5/10, so half a second up then on his previous time. Then that would put him into the range then with Ginger Rage, and potentially if he can find some more time in the next 2 sectors as well, then he can get himself into contention then with further positions as well. Then heading through into sector 2 then, and into the end of sector 2 I should say, then into sector 3 now, and it's as a 7.5/10, or almost an 8/10 improvement. Then that's fantastic then from Mabro. He is flying out there on this attempt as well then as we head onto the back straight now. Then let's see what the Mercedes driver can do then, flying along then as Winnie has started off on that then his first outing as well in qualifying then, but we'll come back to him. He's going into sector 2 now. Then here comes Umabra, and then to finish off the lap though as we go into the final chicane, then let's see if he can get himself through here unscathed, and he has done very good stuff indeed. And now what's it going to be then for the Mercedes then up to the line? Then it's an 11.2, then improves by almost a second then, but he stays, well he improves, sorry, to P14, then displacing Ginger Age down to P15 and putting Ginger Age in a bit of a Mercedes sandwich for the time being as well. And so I'm not quite sure if he's happy about that or not really, but there we are. So good stuff indeed. Then Winnie is on track then going through the hairpin then onto the back straight for the first outing then for the Aston Martin. I think this might be his one and done attempt here in qualifying as well then, because I'm not quite sure he's going to have time to get himself back round and go again then on a second attempt. Then here comes Winnie then into the final chicane, and let's see what he can do then coming through that. Oh dear, he's clouting the Wall of Champions then. He has been claimed by the Wall of Champions I think there, and unfortunately for Winnie then I don't think there's going to be a lap time on the board then for the Aston Martin unless he goes again then, but he's not going to, he's lost an end plate there as well. That right end plate is damaged then after that collision with the Wall of Champions then, and unfortunately it's claimed the first victim here tonight then in Canada, and Winnie then was the first victim as well then, goodness me. Well, there we go then. And oh dear, what's going on here? I think there's a bit of maybe some teamwork or attempted teamwork then going down at Mercedes end, but unfortunately for Yumabro, he's back in the pit lane. So never mind there. Balint then on track then, unfortunately has invalidated his time then as well. So we'll have to go back round again. Dynamo Dan is on track I should say then, but unfortunately has also invalidated in the other Red Bull then. So both Red Bulls are having a bit of a tricky time out there. We've got Leon then who's just finished off a lap, then he's done a 10.3, puts himself P11 then on his first full-time appearance here tonight then in bronze. B Rabbit has said, evening guys, then have a great race then. Can you force Mushroom out of the pits then, says Rabbit. No, I can't. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like Mushroom is going to be taking part then in qualifying tonight then, unless he's going to be doing a very, very late sort of one attempt. But there we are then. Unfortunately, we've been spoilt then with Serious Mushroom doing some qualifying then in the previous rounds then, but unfortunately he has decided not to bless us with his appearance. And Jake the Slayer unfortunately has invalidated his time, and he has got time to go back round again then if he's quick enough. But he needs to make sure he gets himself out of the way of his teammate of Ginger Rage, who's flying through into the chicane of Sector 2, then flying along his next DRS straight as well then. But Serious Mushroom has retired, so unfortunately he's not going to come out of the pit lane, I don't think. But there we go then, heading into Sector 3 momentarily. Ginger Rage is flying out there. Jake the Slayer, like I said, might have some time to get, if he's got enough fuel to go again then right at the last second or so. He needs to get a bit of a move on though, but there we go then, heading into Sector 3 now for Ginger Rage, and let's see what Ginger Rage can do then, or will we? We'll see what, no, it's Astrodron is refueled and going again then for a second attempt then. DRS now available then for the Racing Bull, then heading down that back straight, then flying along to the final chicane, then let's see what he can do in the blue car, but of course with the pink helmet then, which is very standoutish, as we head up to the line then for Ginger Rage this time. Then the final attempt then of qualifying for one of the Racing Bulls. It's 11.1, then almost half a second improvement, stays P4, puts himself to P14 and misses the first couple of quarters. So there we go. Brilliant stuff indeed. Balint has retired, I think, on track as well there somewhere, so that is a problem for them for Ginger Rage. Oh dear, he's trying to get himself out of the way of his teammate. Then that's a Red Bull then that's off the circuit there at the first couple of corners. And Luke has invalidated his lap as well. Then unfortunately for Luke, I think that's qualifying done and dusted for him for the championship leader. But he could be in a bit of peril here actually, because Jenner then might be able to improve then on his current time. Then Luke, I'm not quite sure if the time has finished or not then, because Luke is in the pit lane. So unfortunately then for Luke, he's done and dusted. Balint then is out of qualifying. Then he is going to be Luke has retired. Sorry, he's in the pit lane. Never mind. Ignore me there as well. Then into the final quarter then comes Jenner. Then can Jenner steal away that pole position then from Luke? Then here he comes then up to the line. Then let's see if the McLaren can pin him to the post. Then McLaren stays P2, but he improves then by 22,000 of a second there. Wow. Here comes Dan Dan. Dan Dan is on a charge, and Dan Dan's on pole position here for the Canadian Grand Prix. He takes it away from Luke and from Jenner as well. Then fantastic then from the Alpine driver then, and he's got himself a 9.364 then, which puts himself almost half a tenth away from Luke then and the rest of his rivals as well. Then good stuff indeed. Then Dynamo Dan is back in the pit lane. Unfortunately, there's not improving on P6 then tonight then, as in this qualifying session I should say. And there we go then, we are finished then for qualifying as well. Then goodness me, what an end to qualifying as well. Then it was fantastic. But there we go then, Dan Dan on pole position then for the Canadian Grand Prix. There we are then, there's the classification for quality. Then the start of the race then will be formed by this grid. Then Dan Dan on pole position, and Luke the championship leader then in P2, then Jenner in P3, Sam Newton on his first reserve appearance in P4, then Styles in P5, Dynamo Dan P6, Corey Brennan in P7, DeCanco in P8, Smithy P9, Astra John in P10, then Mr. Elite P11, Liam in P12, Jake the Slayer and Ginger Rage in both the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls in P13 and 14, and Yumabro and IRS both the Mercedes P15 and 16, then Vintage in P17, Balint P18, Winnie and Mushroom, then both the Aston Martin starting from the back of the field, then after not getting a time on the board, then unfortunately then they're going to be stuck from the back of the grid. We'll have a quick word from our lovely sponsors and be back very shortly. Here we are then. Of course, if you have any spare funds, then please check out the ALR shop. Then get yourself some nice ALR hoodies and t-shirts and boxers and whatnot, and other assortments of items and whatnot as well. Good stuff indeed then. And 3D track printing, of course, is up and coming then for 3D printed sort of wall art and graphics, that sort of thing as well. It's very nice indeed. And Luke, no pens. Oh, actually, Rocket Wolf has said Luke, no pole, says that he is washed then, unfortunately then. So, unfortunately for Luke then, P2, it's not good enough then for Rocket Wolf, in his opinion then as well then. So, there we are. We will crack on then, start off the formation lap then as well as we get ourselves ready to go here in Canada then. And once the grid, of course, is set, then we will be underway for 35 laps of action here in Canada as well. Then we'll have to wait and see how it's going to unfold tonight then. From the back of the field then we'll start. Then there's both the Aston Martins thank you very much for Rocket Wolf. Then he's confirming that both the ALR, or all the ALR hoodies are top notch. And very good stuff indeed. We've had a problem then already for Luke and Jenna, who are both disqualified from qualifying then. So there we are. That's interesting stuff indeed. Right then, from the back of the field then, Mushroom and Winnie then, both the Aston Martins, no time on the board in qualifying. Both of them starting on the faster tyre then. Medium compound then for the green machines then. Balint also starting on the medium compound tyres in P18 for the Red Bull team then. Unfortunately then, of course, reserves do not score then in this race then. So Balint and of course Sam Newton then won't be scoring for their respective teams tonight then. But of course, any points they do score will go towards their tally then. Should they get a full-time seat, they'll be at that point pad will be added in when they do join as well then. Vintage and P17 then, hard compound tyres for the Alpine driver then, both the same for Mercedes then and Racing Bull then, both the pair of them, or four of them I should say, then are on the hard compound tyres then, up to P12 then for Liam, then who's also on the hards, as is Mr. Elite then in P11. Astrodron then in the McLaren, P10 for him then is looking pretty good indeed. Then he's on the hard compound tyres as well. Then same for Smithy Almighty and the Kick Sauber in P9. DeCanco also on the hards then, as is Corey Brennan in P8 and P7 respectively there as well. Then Dynamo Dan and Hungry Styles also starting on the hard compound of tyre as well then. Sam Newton then of course the debutant tonight then on the medium compound tyres for Ferrari. Then Jenna then has been disqualified then, same as Luke then, both on the hard compound tyres. And our pole sitter Dan Dan is also starting on the hard compound as well. Right then, now we can get ourselves cracking then as we get ourselves lined up on the grid then. The Aston Martins just taking their places in at the back of the field, and we've got a very nice starting angle then this time instead of all the way back before in Spain. We'll watch the 5 red lights come on here in Montreal then. The 5 red lights are on, the 5 red lights are out then, and away we go for the Canadian Grand Prix of Bronze Season 9 then. And a good start from Dan Dan. He's trying to try and cover off then his Luke then as we go into the first corner then. Around the outside goes Sam Newton then trying to get himself past Jim. He's got the inside for turn 2, and on the medium compound tyres has got the pace and the grip then on the traction to get himself up into P3 then, passing the McLaren as well as we go into the first chicane. Then there's all sorts of action in the background as well. There's goodness me, I need to switch to the position changes as well as Sam Newton is on the move. Then he's on the charge on the medium compound tyres. He's got himself past Luke as well as we go through, and Luke and Jenna then are ghosting in between each other there as well. Then as we go through then onto the back straight as well, then my goodness me, then there's all sorts of action. There's a Red Bull then of Dynamo Dan involved as well. There's the action in the background as well then as DeCanco's dropped down the field as Jake the Slayer as well. Then my goodness me, oh good, as we head through then into the hairpin as well momentarily then, which is going to be very action-packed indeed. Gino and Luke then as we go into the hairpin, then making sure you get your braking point right, and almost miscreating into the back of his teammate there as well, then heading into the hairpin. There's all sorts of action. There's an Alpine, there's a Racing Bull then, goodness me. Wow, action-packed, to say the least, then on the first lap here in Canada tonight then for bronze, as we head into the final chicane then for the first time, I should say. Now Sam Newton on the medium compound tyres is trying to chase down Dan Dan for the lead of the Grand Prix, then heading on to lap 2, then he might make the move then into the first turn on lap 2 now, and Sam Newton sets the fastest lap of the race, then heading into turn 1, then he's got the move for the race lead then on the medium compound tyres, then working to his advantage there at the time, for the time being I should say, then on that Ferrari then. Very good stuff indeed, a good start indeed, then up 3 places then for Sam Newton, then 10 places for Winnie as well. Then he's got himself into the top 9 already then, has Winnie, then fantastic start. And wow, that's very good stuff indeed. IRS has picked up a penalty as well there, and that is going to be costly indeed. Then of course penalties do start to rack up around this circuit, then we'll have to wait and see then how quickly they all start to fold in, or fall in I should say then, as Sam Newton is really storming off into the distance there as well. He's almost got himself a 1 second gap then over Dan Dan as we go through into this. Oh dear, that's very wide then as well for Dan Dan. That's going to cost him DRS as well then to the Ferrari as we head into the hairpin for the second time now, and Luke then might be fancying his chances then to make himself a move for P2, or back up into P2 I should say then, as we go through momentarily then as Winnie and Mr. Elite are battling as well, then side by side, then into the back straight, I should say, then goes me. And who's got the most powerful engine, then who's got the most DRS, and who's got the most ERS, I should say. Then we've got 3 wide going up ahead of us. Oh my god, then, and there's contact, then Jinner then's gone through, then wow, Dynamo Dan's fucking... I'm sorry, snuck through then, God. Fuck. Oh God, I'm not swearing, I'm just trying to get my words out, and I keep saying the word that starts with F and it sounds like that word, but I'm not saying it. Dan then is in a battle then with Jinner then, and Corey Brennan's got himself through to P5, then Luke is down to P3, then Dynamo Dan's got himself up into P2 here. And wow, go, says come on racer. It is all go, I think, here in Canada tonight then from bronze. Then my goodness me, I can't get me words right, as you can tell. Yellow flags. Someone's had a problem then as well. Then someone's had a problem there somewhere. I'm not quite sure who it is. Oh, it's Decanco's had an issue somewhere at, where is that? It's, oh dear, he's lost the name plate then as well. Then has the Ferrari, then goodness me. Sirius Mushroom's got himself past Ballant then as well. Then up into P12, then there's contact there. I'm not quite sure why Ballant is trying to get himself back past there. That is not an overtaking position there. As we go into the hairpin once again, then concertinaing up. Then there's so much, so slow at that point of the circuit. Of course, then of course when you bunch up there, it can cause a few incidents then as well. Then, wow, what a start! And we are flying along here in bronze. Then tonight, then Luke's going for the move on Dynamo Dan, then into the final corner. Then he's got the move done as well. Then up into P2, back up into P2, but he's lost the rear end slightly there as well. Dynamo Dan might be invited back in here. And can he get himself through? Then Astrodron is down 4 places. Then he's battling then with IRS and got himself up into P14. 2 seconds gap then is next target then as well. Then Dan and Jinner then still fighting then through the first 2 turns. And Jinner's gone for a switch back there, but that's audacious to say the least then. And Jinner's gone wide as well, then he's on the grass as well. Then Mr. Elite's been spun then as well. Then Mr. Elite's made contact then with Jinner, I think there. And Smithy Almighty's gone through into P9. Jinner's gone through, Ginger Rage has gone through to P10. My goodness me. And Ginger Rage then, as Mr. Elite then trying to get control of the car, then I think there was Jinner got himself on the grass then, and that's unsettled the Haas car as well. Then going through there, Jake the Slayer and Liam then a switch places as well. Then unfortunately then not good starts then for those two. Kanko in the pit lane then has got himself back on to a set of new combative tyre. Then he's onto the medium compound tyre now is Kanko, and back underway then in the Ferrari. Then hopefully get himself back in this race. Then we'll have to wait and see. Then 4 seconds the gap out in front. Then my goodness me, that is a treacherous gap indeed. Then for the race leaders then, as they've got to try and get that gap back in then as quickly as possible. Then Dynamo Dan's got some DRS then on Luke to try and get himself keep himself in contention. Then Dan passing Corey Brennan then into the final chicane then, and that's going to be unsettling then for both Corey Brennan and for Dan as well then. And Winnie then trying to get himself past and up into P6 I should say. Goodness me, of course he's on the medium compound tyres. Then after starting down the back of the field, then he might start to struggle then on those medium compound tyres soon. We'll have to wait and see. Then Astrotron's picked up a penalty and then heading through the first couple of corners. Then he's got himself past IRS. Then can he get that gap down to the top of the order then as well? Then heading through into the first chicane. Oh dear, that Haas looking a bit flighty then indeed. Then he's been passed by Mushroom and by Ballant as well. Then has the Haas and Mr. Elite then after that whatever happened there with Jinner then. But I think Jinner just lost control of the car on his own then. Mr. Elite was coming up into that corner then, and unfortunately had to get himself out of the way, let's just say then, of what was going to happen there as well. Otherwise that would have been a very big problem indeed then as well. Then heading into the hairpin we go then once again, and Winnie now all over the back of Dan then, oh my god, and then he's trying to drive into the back of Dan completely, it seems like. So there we go, 4.7 seconds now the gap then out in front. Then Dynamo Dan is now holding on to the DRS then of Luke. Styles then is very close indeed then in P4 for the time being then, as we go into the final chicane now, lap 6 of 35 commencing. Oh my god, then Corey and Jinner then are trying to battle then through the chicane then, and I think Corey's been pushed wide, then he's got a penalty for his name I should say, and that might be have to be looked at after the race then, because that I think was a bit of a forced major, let's just say that. And Smithy again forcing major on Corey as well then, as we go white then as well. Now Ginger Rage all over the back of him into the first chicane. Dynamo Dan picked up a penalty as well, then that's the first penalty then for the top of the order then as it stands on lap 6 as well then so far then. Goodness me. Right then, we've got an action-packed race to start the race, I should say. Goodness me, it's all over the place, and I'm all over the place as well. Then, if you can't tell, then, but there we go. Then 6 seconds, the gap out in front, and then Sam Newton, is storming off into the distance here at this rate. Then he is flying in the Ferrari. Then for the time being, then will those medium compound tyres hold out is the question. Then Jake the Slayer's got a 3-second vote, then holding on to that P16 position. Then he's right behind Astra John. Then as they've been passed by IRS. Then for the time being. then heading into the hairpin. Then there's going to be some DRS available for the McLaren and the Racing Bull then very shortly. And out in front then we've got moves going on then as Luke has been passed by Dynamo Dan for P2. Then the Red Bull then takes P2 away. Then Smithy and Winnie, I think, switching places as well there. Winnie now up into P7, I think that is. Not quite sure what's going on there. Smithy I think has been passed by the yes, he has been passed by Aston Martin. Ballard has been passed by the Haas of Mr. Elite now as well. Then as we go through, I think maybe the medium compound tyres starting to fade at this point of the race. Then potentially from here on in, Vintage and you mad bro, and there's contact there. And unfortunately, I don't think Vintage then saw the Mercedes in his wing mirror there as well. Then goodness me. 6 seconds the gap now out in front, and then for Sam Newton, then Dynamo Dan, then try and get that gap down as well then, but like I said, it's just a bit treacherous at this moment then on these hard compound tyres. Maybe they're not just about phasing in at the moment then, of course, but they will start to be the favourable tyre then in the next few laps or so, you would expect. We hope so, because otherwise there's not much point in the strategy sort of thing, is there? But there we go then, heading on to the back straight then, still 6.2 seconds or so. Luke might be able to mount a charge then for that P2 position once again then as Dynamo Dan covers the inside, and Styles, I think Styles is going to try and go for it. No, he's not going for it. Then into the final chicane, then goodness me, he's gone very deep on the brakes then into the entry point. That's going to cost him on the exit, and it has cost him on the exit as well. Then let's just say that then as we go through onto lap 8 then of 35, and so far so good then into the first chicane, first turn I should say. Then Mr. Elite is passing Mushroom, sorry, for P11. My goodness me. And up into P11 he goes then on the hard compound tyre. This is where, like I said, we saw the crossover point then in the previous races in gold and in silver as well then for the medium compound tyres, those that started on them of course. The medium compound tyres do start to drop off very quickly indeed then, so it's just about trying to keep them in that window as well then. It doesn't seem to be too bad for Sam Newton though, leading the way then so far so good. Then Vintage unfortunately picking up a penalty as well then, one of the next penalties then of the evening, but there's plenty out there already as we go through then on lap 8 then into sector 2. Then Ginger Rage now is up into the top 10 then, he's chasing down Smithy Almighty then here in the Racing Bull, and it's yeah, all good so far. Out at the front then, unfortunately, like I said, Duke Hanko then has had to pit then for a new front wing. He's on a fresh set of medium compound tyres. He is starting to bring that gap down as well then to Yamabra and Vintage as well then, but of course has made a bit of a different strategy call there as well then, let's just say that. Dynamo down back past Luke then for P2 then into the final chicane, then he goes up into P2, then can he hold on to it as well? Then Ginger Rage picks up a penalty then going through the final chicane, but of course is in contention then still of course to hang on to the top 10 then, or top 9 I should say, because he is in the top 10 then, so there we go. So far so good then. Gina and Dan Dan, sorry, resuming their battle then here. It seems like they're stuck up behind Styles then, behind Luke and behind Dynamo Dan, and unfortunately this is not helping. It's not helping anybody going, because Sam Newton is scampering off into the distance then for a race victory. It looks like him for Ferrari as we head into sector 2 then for the 9th time so far this race then. And it looks like Dynamo Dan is starting to struggle then as well going through there, but of course the hard compound tyres should be a-okay for the next few laps or so then, as Dan Dan has gone for an ambitious move down the inside there. Oh, it's not really an overtaking position really, is it then, as Styles has dropped down behind Ginner as well then somehow. I'm not quite sure what's going on there as well. Ginner's gone for a move as well then on Dan Dan, and it's just getting a bit desperate between the Alpine and the McLaren, it looks like then, as we go through the hairpin. And yeah, I'm not quite sure what is going on there, because they were just getting a bit overzealous, let's just say that then, I should say. Right then, Ginner's got himself up in P4 then as Luke and Dan. Oh my god, that again is just not the opportune place to overtake really, is it there, as you go through the final chicane then. Ginner then is trying to get himself past Dynamo Dan then into the first corner, and we go through there side by side almost then. Dynamo Dan's got the inside for turn 2 now, and should have the traction as well then, and has got kept the position I should say then. Dynamo Dan and Dan sorry, trying to get himself back through passing the McLaren, but not quite then, as we go down the hill then into sector 2 momentarily as well then. But all this fighting between the top of the order then has just cost them, is now cost them 8.5 seconds then to the top driver then is Sam Newton, who is scampering off into the distance here. Liam's picked up another penalty then, unfortunately the penalties, like I said, rolling in for the rest of the field, and it will do of course throughout this race as well. Then Luke now up into P2 is trying to chase down the top of the order then. We've got 8 seconds to try and find her. It's not going to be very easy then for Luke then, unfortunately. And of course the championship leader then is a championship leader for a reason as well. We'll have to find out then if he can get himself back through then. Jake the Stairs past IRS then into P14. Mushroom then all over the back of Ballant as well. Then these two on the medium compound tyres. We'll come back to that then. We might have a battle on our hands here as well. Then here comes Jinner then passing Dynamo down then for P3. He's up into P3, then Kanko's picked up a penalty, then Jinner's picked up a penalty going through the final corner as well. Then goodness me, penalties are rolling in here as well. Then as we go through, then on to lap 11 now of 35 then. So far so good. Then Jinner now up into P3 then. Can he chase down Luke? Can they both chase down Sam Newton? Because Sam Newton is on for a race win here regardless of what happens in the next few laps or so. Then he can go and try and extend the medium stint then and go for a fresh set of hard compound tyres then in the next few laps. Dan picks up a penalty as well. Then Jinner Jinner's off. What's Jinner have? Jinner's had an issue somewhere because Jinner's off the circuit there, and Styles then again reluctant to go past, it seems then, for Styles then, because again I'm pretty sure, I'm not quite sure from his angle then, but it looked like Jinner was ghosting him from our angle, but never mind. So we go through then into sector 2 then. Jinner's had a mishap somewhere as Corey and Winnie, oh dear, there's contact there as well then, and Corey and Winnie and Jinder Ray has gone through as well then. Goodness me, then Corey then has I think clipped Winnie then, and Winnie's gone for a spin, and Winnie then is starting to struggle on those medium compound tyres I think anyway then, but he's now lost out to his teammate and to Ballant as well as we go into the hairpin. My goodness me. Wow, it's getting action-packed, and here comes Dan on his former teammate Dynamo Dan, then into the final chicane as well. Then Dan takes P3 away from the Red Bull of Dynamo Dan. Now we'll go through then onto the start-finish rate then to start off lap 12. Then Jinner then trying to get himself past Dynamo Dan as well. Then as we go into the first turn and covering the inside then for turn 2. Then there's going to go side by side through there as well. Then that's going to be very dangerous stuff indeed. And they're still going to go side by side then through into the next corner as well, it looks like. And wow, Jinner then is just well, that's caused Dynamo Dan to have a bit of a problem there, let's just say that. And well, Jinner then is Jinner then I don't think it's going to be anybody's good books then after this race. And so far he's just been causing more havoc than he is avoiding, I should say. Let's just say that as we go through. And oh God, there's contact between the Red Bulls as well now, and God, it's all over the place here tonight then for Red Bull. And there we are then, onto the back straight we go then, and Dynamo Dan down to P12 unfortunately now. And then after that contact then with Jinner as well, then heading into the hairpin we go. And Jinner then is up into P4 then, but I think might be in the bad books then with a few of the drivers out there and a few of the stewards then in the next few minutes after the race, that is. Sam New then should reserve in silver, says Kamara Racer then. Well, he's currently 9 seconds out in the lead then is Sam Newton. And he is storming off into the distance, and at this point, even though he's on old medium compound tyres, still Luke then, still Dan then. Unfortunately, to be honest, then we can't really tell the difference or comparison, because everybody behind Sam Newton has decided to battle rather than to actually work together to reel in the Ferrari as we go through the first couple of corners. Then Corey past Ginger Age then for P7, then Ginger Age P8 for the time being as well. Then Mystery up into P9, then Serious Mushroom still carrying on. Then we've got Jake the Slayer's had an issue then at the first turn somewhere, and coming back on then into P16. My goodness me, what has happened there? Then we didn't see it. Astrojon and IRS then are all way over the back of Ballant. Then Dynamo Dan then has got himself past his teammate then and into P11 now. Lap 13 then of 35 as we go through then into the middle part of the race, I should say, or middle stint of the race then, let's just say the middle sector of the race, I should say. There we go. I got there eventually then. Dynamo Dan, sorry, then trying to catch up then to Serious Mushroom then is his next target. Then they've got 4 seconds up the road unfortunately then to the top 9. Then Mystery trying to catch up to Ginger Age, but Ginger Age is holding on to the DRS then of Corey Brennan. Then into P2 goes Dan then, and passing Luke then for that position as well. Then he's got some DRS then to try and cover off the move then on the re-overtake, I should say, then of Luke then into the first couple of corners. Then Jenner's now 2 seconds behind after all of that shenanigans then as well. Then he's lost time then to the top 3. The top 3 then, or the top 2 I should say, or 2 of the top 3 I should say, as Sam Newton is out in his own world then at the moment with 10 seconds gap then to lead the Grand Prix. There we are then. Styles then P5, then Smithy Almighty then is in P6 then as well, and he's looking pretty good then, the Smithy Almighty. No penalties to his name so far. Mushroom then 6 seconds behind P9. Then goodness me, those medium compound tyres are not working anymore, I don't think then, for anybody actually on the medium compound tyres potentially. Ballant then is still on the mediums, and Kanko of course is pitted very early on then for that wing damage as well. They might be able to go a few extra laps as well here, but we'll find out very shortly. Then Mushroom now under pressure from Dynamo Dan then, who's got some DRS as well then, into the back straight as we go more. Oh dear, we've got 3 wide as well then into the hairpin then for Smithy, for Jinner and for Styles. Yellow flags then for Ferrari, I think, at the first couple of corners. And my goodness me, then it's all action here as we go down the back straight now. Ginner's not got any DRS, I don't think, then, but Styles is trying to get himself past as well. Then into the final chicane we go, and it's going to be side by side through there then, and Ginner is trying to go through then side by side, and he's lost out then to Smithy, to Styles, to Corey, and to Ginger Rage. And yeah, there's a point where you need to sort of learn to back out, I think, in this situation. And a few drivers then have decided that they don't want to. And I think we've seen that in a few situations as well here tonight then. But there we go. Ginner then down to P8 as well there. But there we go, Mystery now in company as well for that McLaren then as well. I think it's just over-ambition in some situations there where you try and go for a move that's just not completely on there. 50-50 and all that, but it's not even 50-50, and oh my goodness me, what is going on here? It's just a nightmare then for oh dear, don't even bother sticking your nose into that then as we go through. Then Ginner's picked up a 3-second penalty there. Mystery then is all over the back of the McLaren then. Well, yes, Kamara Racer said something there about the move as well then, but yeah, unfortunately it's just yes, all you can say is over ambitious, let's just put it that way. 10 seconds to gap out in front then. Sam Newton is just scampering off into the distance still. Luke and Dan then are next to chase him down then. Unfortunately for Dan, he's got a penalty to his name as well then, so he's going to try and have to clear these drivers and get himself up the road a bit more. Then for almost 5 seconds back then is Smithy. Then he's being challenged by Corey by Styles, and Corey's gone through to P4, then Styles then of course into P5, then Smithy down to P6, and Ginger Rage then is right behind us in P7 as well. So very good stuff indeed. But yeah, Corey then fresh after his podium, then unfortunately picking up a penalty there as well then, but fresh after his podium as well then in Spain last week then, looking to try and get himself back in the big points tonight as well. Then Styles then P5, no penalties from then Smithy, the same in P6 as well. Then Ginger Rage picked up a penalty to his name then, and Ginner then is 3 seconds back then. Mr. Elite couldn't get himself past, and Dynamo Dan is 3 seconds behind in P10 in a bit of no man's land now after the after more contact with Ginner as well then. So Ginner then has been the target then, or not the target, has been the aggressor then in the early stages of this race as well. Then we'll have to wait and see then what the situation is then in terms of angles and POV and all of that sort of stuff then after the race as well then. But yes, it is Canada for a reason, let's just say that. But winning then up into P17 on fresh set of hard compound tyres. We've got a problem then. Yellow flags, I thought it was for Luke then because he's been passed by Dan, but it's not a problem for Luke or for Dan, as Dan takes P2. Then Corey then has been passed by Styles then into the final chicane. Then goes the Haas then up into P4. Very good stuff indeed. Then Ginger's picked up a penalty as well there as we go through then, and Ginger Rage then all over the back of Corey and Smithy as we go into turn 2. There's contact between the Williams and the kicks out, then into the pits comes Mushroom. Mushroom calling it there, I think, on the medium compound tyres. Is it me or is it getting a bit grey overhead there? And will we see some rain in this race then? We're not quite sure then. Into the pits comes Mushroom, then hard compound tyres going on, then a fresh set of boots now for Serious Mushroom, then 10 seconds the gap then in the lead, then still for Sam Newton, who's done 17 laps now on these medium compound tyres. Well, like I said, in gold they felt horrible after about 8 laps for me. But Sam Newton's done double the stint then, and looking pretty good indeed, although it's just come under 10 seconds now. But it's still quite solid then indeed, that lead then for the Ferrari, that is, on his debutant appearance as well then, as we go through then into the back straight then as well. Then Luke's got some DRS then on Dan as we head through then towards the final chicane then for the 17th, almost 18th time. And Luke then stays in P3 for the time being as well. Then here comes Smithy then trying to get himself past Corey Brennan then into the final chicane as well there, and into that final chicane we go. Then the kicks out and then takes P5 away from the Williams. Ginner's got a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane as well. Then he's gone a bit too fast then on the pit entry, unfortunately then for Ginner. He's into the box then. It's a very early stop indeed as well. The medium compound tyres going on. He's going to have to do about 17 laps as well, and the same as Sam Newton at this stage on those medium compound tyres if he wants to get to the end of the Grand Prix on that stint then as well then. So it's going to be very interesting stuff indeed then. Umabro going through then into turn 1, I should say, then against me, and I think he will come out just ahead then of the McLaren, or will he? It's going to be close indeed. I think Ginner's got himself just ahead then on the medium compound tyres. Out of the pit lane comes Ginner, P16 then on a fresh set of boots then as well as we go through. Winning now up into P14 is going to be catching up then to Liam, to Ballard as well here as we go through. Then Ginger Rage is past Corey then for P6 as well. The Ginger Rage is flying out there in the racing ball so far. He's now got some DRS there on Smithy Almighty to try and get himself into P5 next as well. Goodness me. Hello all, good luck then, says Donald the Dons as well then, as we're very good stuff indeed then, thanks very much for joining us as well then. Winnie has got himself past Liam then as we go into the hairpin. And he's almost pushing Ballot through the hairpin as well then as we go through, and there's contact there, and Whitney is, oh dear. Ballot then, I'm not quite sure, knows what he's doing on track to be fair there, but never mind, he has got himself through, or not through then, as here comes Winnie then down the inside, then into the final chicane, then he's got himself past then as Winnie up into P12 with the aid of some DRS as well, then he's got himself past, and then here comes Liam as well then on the attack, then trying to get himself past Ballot as well, then Liam has got himself through to P13, and Ballot has lost 2 places then, unfortunately Liam's got some end plate damage there as well, that looks like for the Williams then, not quite sure. Well, maybe you should just jump into the pit lane there and sort that out then as quickly as possible then to get yourself back on the fresh front wing. But there we go then. The gap is 9.4, so it is coming down now for Dan. Ginger on a mission tonight, says Kamara Racer then. As it goes, I think he might be a candidate for driver of the day, to be fair. He's doing a fantastic job. I probably jinxed him now. But there we are then, as we got problems then for Ballin. Then, oh, there's contact there for Ginner and Jake the Slayer as well then, as we go through into the chicane. And I think that was Ginner then who's, well, again, it's been Ginner involved in all of the incidents, unfortunately, tonight then. And he's got himself, well, he's lost himself a front wing there. A part of a front wing at least. Jake the Slayer hasn't pitted yet, but of course could take the opportunity now to get a new front wing and a pit stop as well. Yeah, unfortunately not quite sure what happened there, as we got Astra John and IRS going side by side through the chicane then. Definitely dodgy stuff there as well. Then we got into the pits Ginner comes into the pits, that's what I should say then, but Jake the Slayer is staying out again then. I'm not quite sure why Jake the Slayer is staying out at all then, to be honest, as IRS, I know it's Winnie's had an issue then at the first turn. And was there a helping hand then from somebody there at the first turn from Winnie, then, or with Winnie I should say then, goodness me, I'm not quite sure. Yes, anyway. Well, it's all kicking off now. Lap 20 then, as we've got Ginner in the pit lane. Of course, he's got a 10-second penalty to serve as well. Front wing change and a new set of boots to go on then. That's McLaren. Unfortunately, with Ginner, then it's not going too well out there then tonight, then it seems then. But hopefully he can get himself back underway and back into the race. Then Dukanko then has gone through then for that P90 position as well. Then my goodness me, then Ginner then coming out the pit lane will probably just about be ahead then of the race leader, which is Sam Newton. Of course, then Sam then has yet to pit. Then he's done 20 laps on the medium compound tyres. Then he's still not being caught though by the those on the hard runners. Then Mr. Elite has been passed by Dynamo Dan for P8 now, as we go into the final couple of quarters, of lap 20, then on to lap 21 then for these guys. So out in the lead. Sam Newton is... Oh, wait, we've got rain. We've got some rain here. Rain is coming. Then Astrojohn is in the pit lane then. That's interesting. He's on going for soft compound tyres then, is Astrojohn. Then that is very interesting stuff indeed. Well, that would... Oh, if it's not going to be wet enough then for the intermediates in the next sort of 5 laps or so, that could be a fantastic call actually then from Astrojohn. Then we'll have to wait and see. The balance gone on to the intermediate compound tyres maybe a bit early then for that. It has started raining, but I'm not sure if it's raining heavily enough, I should say, for the intermediate compound tyres just yet then. But there we go. Then Ginner has got himself past. And he's gone into the pit lane again. Then Dukanko is all over the place there, trying to get himself through the final chicane. Then Ginner is into the pit lane as well now. Oh no, it's Sam Newton in the pit lane as well. So goodness me, Sam Newton's also in the pit lane from the lead of the Grand Prix, and maybe he was trying to hold out. Then Dan is going very slowly then through the final corner. Then I think Dan's had an issue somewhere. He's got himself back up in the race lead. DRS is already disabled, and we've got everyone piling into the pit. Smithy's got a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He didn't need to speed in the pit lane because he's going to be double stacking behind his teammate. Dynamo Dan's got a 10-second speeding in the pit lane as well then, and Mr. Elite as well. Goodness me, they can't slow the cars down then to get into that pit entry, unfortunately. Then get your car slowed down before you get in the pits. Then it's more important that you slow the car down then, as Liam's got a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. IRS then has gone through. Then everyone else has got himself through then, I think just about in touch, I should say. Then there we go. Then Mushroom slows the car down. Umabro slows the car down. Then out of the pits. Then Dan has carried on. Then Dan is not even competing for the race lead. Then Sam Newton has come out ahead of Dan then after the stops then onto the intermediate compound tyre. Then Dan is going to be struggling now on these hard compound tyres. He's gone wide then in sector 2, and he is really having a troubled time out there on those hard compound tyres, I should say. Dukanko as well will be the same there as well. Then Ginner's going to catch him quite quickly indeed. Then Liam then has passed Ballant then for the for P12. I think that is in. Yes, he's up into P12 now as well. Then good stuff indeed. There's all sorts of action going on here as well. Then Ginger Age onto the intermediate combat tires, P7 for him then, but he might be P6 in the end because Dan then is going to be very slow as we go through that. Dukanko then coming into the pits as well. Then on the medium compound tires is calling it there. Then on the mediums as well. Then I think Dan might have to come into the pits this time, and yes, he is. Then he's got the car slowed down as well. Then, but unfortunately, that lap then on the intermediate conditions on the hard compound tires has cost him dearly then as well, because Luke is going to go past then and fly through then into P2. Then Styles will come through as well. Then I'm pretty sure Smithy got a 3-second penalty for multiple track limits as well. Then Corey then up into P4. Then where will Dan come out then in respect to the rest of the order? Then he's going to be ahead of his former teammate, I think. Then there is Dynamo Dan in the background. Then here comes Dan out of the pit lane, and there we are. Then into P7 he goes. Then unfortunately, then that extra lap has been very, very costly indeed. Then the DRS, or the rain came down very quickly indeed. Then the DRS was disabled very quickly as well. Then and just an indicator then of the when the pit on the intermediate compound tyre. Then Jake the Slayer is up into P13, passing Ballant then for into P14 then for the Red Bull. Serious Mushroom is all behind us, right behind us as well, I should say, heading on to lap 23 of 53. 53, goodness me, no thank you. 35. There we are. Astrodron has also had an issue somewhere in the pits as well, then, because he's down to P18. I think he's struggled on then on the dry compound tyres as well. Then the similar situation to the likes of Dan and the likes of Dukanko as well. Then goodness me, 4 seconds separates Styles away from P2. Then that is Luke. Then 15 seconds separates the Sam Newton from the top of the order. For the rest of the order, I should say. Then Serious Mushroom passed for P14, and now on a charge. Then can he get himself caught up with Jake the Slayer then, and Liam is his next targets as well. Then heading on to lap 24. Then here comes Ginger Rage trying to get himself past Smithy. Oh dear, through the wall past all the champions, and they're side by side. They've lost a lot of time through there, and that's going to excite Dan because Dan's now under 1 second behind them, both of them, as Ginger Rage goes late on the brakes and into turn 1, then gets the move then up into P5 here, and very good stuff indeed then. But Dan with all of that shenanigans into the final chicane has gained quite a lot then as well. Ginger on a mission, says Kamara Racer, that he is flying at the moment. He's up into P5. Then we'll have a look at the penalty situation in a few laps. There's a corner there. Oh my God. Wow. And that's wow, that's very good, or either very good or very bad car control, but I can't tell the difference. But there we go, then on to the back straight we go. Then there's a very nice camera angle though as well, then heading through into the depths of Sector 2. Corey Brennan then is 1.1 seconds away, but the penalties then of course will be coming back then at the end of the race. The classifications will be totting up the penalties as well then for track limits at the very end, so it will be added on then to their race times when the checkered flag falls, or when they pass the checkered flag I should say. The rain then has been a bit of an equaliser so far in terms of the gaps. Then we've got a yellow flag for a McLaren in the pit lane, and that is Ginner. Then Ginner has quit in the pits as well, and unfortunately then for Ginner, then he's out of the race then on lap 25 then, the first retirement of this race as well then, to be fair. But as Dukanko then is still going on as well, then Dukanko's done a fantastic job of soldiering on out there as well. Then Dan has passed Smithy Almighty then for P6. Then Ballant's got a 3-second penalty as we go through then on to lap 25. Then 10 laps remaining at the end of this one. Ginger Rage holds on to P5. Then Dan is now 1 second away. Then Smithy Almighty down to P7 as we go through then into this into the final stint then, final sector of this Grand Prix as well. Then it's been absolutely brilliant stuff indeed then to watch as well. There's been action all over the field, and it's now turned to wet conditions as well then, so it's going to be even more difficult for the drivers to negotiate through here as well then in these wet conditions. We fly through the first sector then for Dynamo Dan, 1 second behind then, 4 seconds behind then this battling pair then, but the battle's going on then further up the field. Then we'll bring Dynamo Dan into play here, and we go through then into sector 2 now. 17 seconds the gap in the lead. Then Luke then unfortunately is in a bit of no man's land at this stage, and he's got a 5-second gap back to Styles then, unless anything goes wrong then it's going to be quite a short one then for the podium places as it stands. Corey Brennan then of course with penalty then is not too much in contention then with Styles then as it stands as well then, but if he can get himself past the house then and try and scamper up the road, then potentially Corey could go for a double back-to-back podium then after his podium as well in Spain last week. Yellow flags Is it for Astrodron? Then Astrodron's had an issue. Then he is off the circuit. Then unfortunately for both the McLarens, they are struggling out here tonight. As Decanco's got a penalty as well. Then Astrodron then has been unlapped, I should say, then by Decanco. No, it's not. It's the Ferrari of Sam Newton. Sorry, who is lapping the McLaren then. But Astrodron is back underway quickly enough. Then unfortunately, I'm not quite sure. He must have just had a bit of a loss of traction. Let's just say that. Then as we go through here, it's a very easy place to lose the car, especially through that part of the circuit. And we saw Ginger Rage having a bit of a struggle at it. A few hacks of the wheel, let's just say, then through sector 1 into sector 2. This part of the circuit then is very treacherous indeed in the wet conditions, and it's even more it's treacherous in the dry conditions, isn't it really? It's even more treacherous in the wet conditions as well then, but the drivers so far handling it very nicely indeed. Can they handle it very nicely indeed to the checkered flag is the question as well then. Heading on to lap 26 then, we're going to have 9 laps of action to go then as we cross the checkered flag then to start off lap 27 momentarily then for Sam Newton. And yeah, I haven't seen Sam Newton much of this race then because he has been storming off into the distance as well here. Brilliant stuff indeed as we go through then, crossing the line then to finish off lap 26 on to lap 27. Numabro then all over the back of Balance, sorry, then for that final points paying position. Then currently, mathematically, then with the penalties, he will get that position anyway then because he has no penalties to his name then, does Numabro then. So fantastic stuff indeed. If he can keep it clean then for the remaining 9 laps as well, then he will be in the shout then potentially for some for a points paying position, I should say, and potentially for some more as well then for anybody ahead who has lots of penalties racked up then in this race. Then we'll have a look at the penalty situation now, and it's 6 seconds for Corey, 6 for Ginger Rage, sorry. Jake the Slayer driven into the back of Liam there. We've got 3 for Dan, and then that will promote him past Ginger Rage there for P5 as it stands as well then. 13 for Smithy, then 13 as well for Dynamo Dan. Those are, one of them is 10-second penalty for each for speeding in the pit lane. Mr. Elite, I think, has got a 10-second as well. Then he's got 6 seconds or 3-second penalties then, and unfortunately 10 seconds for speeding in the pit lane as well there. Winnie's only got 3 seconds, and 9 for IRS then. He's on for some points paying positions as well here then. Is IRS then 16, unfortunately for Liam as well. I think one of them is speeding in the pit lane as well here. We've got more action then as Corey and Styles are battling then. Where are you? Why? What is going on there? Battling in the most awkwardest of places as well there. Yes, well, there we are. I'm not quite sure why or what, but there we go then. So Styles then does hold on to P3 for the time being, but that was well, firstly, a bit pointless, and also, secondly, just cost them an abundance amount of time then to Ginger Rage and the rest behind as well. Yeah, the more they keep doing that, then the more the other drivers behind are going to gain on you. So that is why it's wise just to not even bother battling in some situations, especially into that sort of part of the circuit as well there, where overtaking side by side is not going to be easy, and typically will make it very difficult for both drivers to get themselves through the corner. Oh dear, as Corey then drifting the car through turn 1. Yeah, they kind of I think they've got some lightning here in Canada. Then it's getting very heavy out there. Is it time for full wets potentially then? Well, I think we might be switching over to full wets soon. You never know. Ballant has been passed by Umabro then for P15. Then up into P15 goes the Mercedes now. Yeah, might we be seeing some wet compound tyres coming on these vehicles very soon? Ballant back past then with some straight line speed. Corey and Styles then this time are switching roles then in the same place this time, but they managed to get themselves sorted before the corner. Umabro picks up a penalty as well then. Goodness me, I must have jinxed him there as well then, because I was saying he's doing a fantastic job with no penalties so far in this race. Lap 28 of 35 then. We've done a fantastic job so far for bronze, getting through this race as well in a brilliant style, and heading through then into lap 29 now we go, and we are cruising along then down the back straight then for Styles as well, then trying to hold on then to Corey Brenner. Then all he needs to do is stay within the range of the penalties then for the Williams, and he will get himself back into the podium places here tonight then. Dan has passed Ginger Rage, and has he? Yes, he has then, up into P5 then, but he's gone very well, squiffy, let's just say that, through the forest chicane, and Ginger Rage might come back at him then. Ginger Rage with a fantastic move and takes back that P5 position, then heading into turn 1, then he holds on to P5 as well then. Very good stuff indeed then from Ginger Rage. And now lap 29 then of 35 then. We've got 6 laps to go then at the end of this one as well then. It's starting to concertina up a bit in some areas as well then on track then as we go through then. Oh my god, Mr. Elite then, they're trying to go for a move then. Wow, no, it's not on then, and again it's compromised his entry to the corner, it's compromised his exit to the corner as well then. Going for an over ambitious move there as well then, unfortunately then, for Mr. Elite, and that is exactly why you don't do that sort of thing, because you might as well just stay on the racing line then and not just back off a bit, and then keep your line, keep your speed going through the corner, and then get yourself on the attack then at the next point of the corner then, or at an overtaking position. Then goodness me, Ginger Rage is having a problem. He's off the circuit, and wow, what has happened as well then further back as well then, Ginger Rage then is, I think he's got himself out of the wall thankfully, and I think he's okay, but he seemed to have a bit of a snap then, but Dan has gone through. I think Ginger Rage is all right then to carry on. Then wet compound tyres going on Astro John's car. That could be interesting stuff indeed. Maybe a bit of data gathering. Unfortunately, his teammate's not in the race anymore, so he can't really data gather for his teammate anymore. Mr. Elite and Dynamo Dan are switching places then into the final chicane then, and Mr. Elite now ahead then of the Red Bull as we go on to lap 30. Right then, Astro John then, he's got 4 seconds to Decanco then. We'll have to wait and see then who's going to be fastest and who's not going to be fastest. That's the way the racing goes then, as Umabro and Balin then are having an epic battle here tonight. Who can get themselves ahead then for that final points paying position as well. Then heading into the hairpin then, we've got Umabro down the inside, then he's got the move potentially done, has he? Oh dear, it's that back end trying to step out then as we go through onto the back straight then, oh my goodness me, and almost swiping across that Red Bull as well then. I think all over the place as well there. I think the wet compound tyres then on Astro John's car are working, and Ballet is back through them with some fantastic straight line speed once again then into the final quarter, into the final chicane I should say. Then fantastic stuff indeed then, Ballet back through then, this battle going on, and I'm not quite sure if well, maybe Decanco letting the other cars go through then, but Astro John then on the wet compound tyre has gained almost 2 seconds then in the last couple of sectors, and or maybe one sector, one second I should say then, because you all know he's going to gain lots and lots of time there, but I think maybe Decanco then just getting out of the way there of other cars coming through then, so maybe it's not representative then for the rest of the field then, unfortunately. Astro John then is on the wet compound tyres, and he's going to have to try and make those wet compound tyres work wonders in this final few laps then as well then. If it does change to wet compound tyres, then I'm not quite sure if there's going to be any benefit then for those who do switch over then. There's just not too much time then to make the benefit as well, especially around this short circuit as well. And if it was maybe Belgium or Spa, and Spa, or at Spa, then potentially then, because it's such a long lap, then it's worth doing it then as early as possible then to use the maximum then of the benefit on the new tyres, I should say. There we go then, Jake the Slayer and Liam are battling then into the final chicane as well then. Jake the Slayer is being carried on then with that left end plate damage as well then, so I'm not quite sure if he's either noticed it or he's just not bothered about it. He's just going to crack on then and carry on there as well then. There is a penalty situation then for all drivers out there as well then. Those who've got over 10 seconds, apart from Decanco I think, those who've got over 10 seconds then, apart from Decanco, have got a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane then, which cannot be removed then in this race unless they do serve it in a pit stop, that is. But yes, otherwise they've got to try and soldier it out then to the checkered flag then. So all of those who've got the extra 10-second penalties then, that is Smithy, that is Mr. Elite, that is Dynamo Dan, that is Liam, will have that extra 10 seconds served as well then, unfortunately. Driver of the day is out in the comment section. You've got Luke, Styles, Corey or Ginger Rage as your candidates then as well. So we get those votes in, then we've got 3.5 laps to go then, or 3 and a bit laps to go I should say then, before we finish off this Grand Prix then. It's been a fantastic Grand Prix indeed then. There is Mushroom, and he's got no penalties then, but we're only gaining 1 place then on IRS as it stands in, with a big gap I should say then to the top 10 then after IRS as well then. We've got Dynamo Dan then, that's Astro John then, sorry, getting out of the way then, but potentially Astro John is not gaining then, I'm not sure. Oh dear, we've got a problem then for Quick Sauer. It's Smithy's off the circuit there at the, oh dear. Astro John is also almost off the circuit as well. They're at the same spot then, maybe unsettled by the yellow flags then. Smithy's back underway then. Now Winning's going to be all over the back of him as well then, and Smithy might lose out to that position as well then to P9 then for Winning then potentially on the cards, then potentially even more than with Dynamo Dan's penalty as well then. We'll have to wait and see, and potentially even more as well then with Street's penalty as well then. Goodness me. You Mad Bro is up into P15, passing Ballant then for P15 as well then into the final points paying position then. Of course, these two are on the same penalties as well then, so anybody who does get that position, that P15, will get the final point then as we go into lap 33. He's going down the inside. He's not going down the inside. He thinks better of it than this Ballant. Then he's got the inside for turn 2, has you Mabro, and holds on to P15. Now Vintage has joined the fight as well. Then as well, the Vintage could get himself into the final points paying position soon as well here. Out in front then, Sam Nugent has blitzed off into the distance as well. Then he's lapping people now as well then as we go through then into lap 33 for him. And so far so good then as well. As we go through then into the penultimate laps of the race as well. Then Decanco picks up another penalty then, but he's done a fair job then, has Decanco and Astrodron as well then, for soldiering on in this Grand Prix where others haven't, let's just say. But he's done a brilliant job then. So far so good then for both the McLaren and the Ferrari as well then. Penalties, I think that was, I'm not quite sure if that was it for Styles? It might have been for Styles there as well. Then, unfortunately for Styles, then he has lost out 5 seconds there to Corey Brennan. Then Corey could be on for another podium here, and it could be a very impressive back-to-back podium. Then after the P3, then in Spain last week as well. Then for the Williams driver, so far so good. Then on to lap 34, the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. Then for Sam Newton. Then as we get ourselves going here in the final couple of races, then Ginger Rage pick up another penalty. Then he doesn't want to get too many of those because that could be costly indeed. Currently not costly then to Mr. Elite. But, of course, we've got Winnie there on only 3 seconds then. So if Winnie can get within 6 seconds of Ginger Rage, I don't think he is then. He's currently about 10 seconds, I think, roughly. Currently, something like that. So he just needs to make sure he keeps the penalties down then for the next 2 laps, that is. As Luke then starts off lap 34 as well, then heading into the last couple of quarters, then the last few corners. Every time we go through turn 1 and 2, it seems like lightning is striking the circuit somewhere. Maybe it's just the camera flashes then in the rain, but yes, it is very, very interesting stuff indeed. So there we are. Right then, get your final votes in then for God of the Day. Then the last few laps, then the last couple of quarters, then for this season as well. Then for this half of the season, I should say. Then we're on the first half. This is round 8 then of 16 as well. Then that is so halfway point. If you haven't figured that out mathematically, that is well, as much maths as I'm going to be able to do tonight. Then, but there we are. So there we go then. But currently then Luke then leading the way in the driver of the day pole. Then Ginger Rage in P2, then Styles P3, Corey in P4. So get those final votes in there as well. Then Ginger Rage will hold on then currently to that P6 position, which would be a best result of the season for him so far, that is. Corey then will hold on to P3 as well then with his 6 seconds of penalties. Then on to lap 35 of 35. Then the final lap of the Grand Prix, Sam Newton leads the way and has led the way for the majority of the race then after starting on the medium compound tyres then brilliantly indeed then for the Ferrari then on his debut. Then I'm sure he'll be shipped off to silver then after this race then nonetheless because he has done a very good job indeed tonight then. But yes, definitely not going to be a fan favourite in bronze after this race as well then for sure. As we go through then on to lap 35 then for the rest of the field as well then. Mr. Elite is trying to put the pressure on Ginger Rage then into the final chicane. Then of course Ginger Rage doesn't really need to fight Mr. Elite, to be honest, because you can see the penalty situation then for the Haas behind him as well then. But of course he needs to make sure he makes hay then on the situation for Winnie. Then Winnie's only well, where is Winnie? He's about 10 seconds behind still as well, actually, but he needs to make sure he doesn't get that gap down to under 6 seconds then for Ginger Rage to the Aston Martin. And it's not really anybody else he's fighting at the moment, it's just the Aston Martin there. Heading on to the back straight we go then for Sam Newton. Then Sam Newton is going to win the Canadian Grand Prix by quite a margin indeed as we go into the final chicane now. And there it is then, Sam Newton then through the final chicane then to finish off the 35th lap then here in Canada. And Sam Newton wins on his first outing then for bronze, and he wins the Canadian Grand Prix here in bronze season 9. A fantastic result then for the Ferrari driver and the Ferrari team of course as well. Then as Liam picks up served the penalty, then he stays, so he goes down to P14, then Jake the Slayer up into P13, then Mushroom P12 is also confirmed as well. Then Luke will cross the line in P2. Ballint picks up a penalty as well, then he will finish out of the top 15 I think now as well. Then Luke then crosses the line P2 then for the kick salver driver then as well. Then good stuff indeed. Then behind him then 7 seconds behind is Corey Brennan then, who's going to cross the line and get another podium under his belt then for Corey. Fantastic stuff indeed. Then Styles then will cross the line in P4 just ahead of Dan then as we cross the line then as well. Then for the Alpine then P4 for Styles, then P5 for Dan. Then Ginger Rage is next to cross the line as well here. And I'm pretty sure it'll be Ginger Rage P6 then as well, will it? We'll have to wait to see then. Dynamo Dan P8 then. Smithy Almighty then will be not P9 I don't think, because Winnie's up into P7 then, sorry. And Mr. Elite P8 then, Dynamo Dan P9 then, Smithy P10 then, IRS will cross the line in P11. Mushroom P12, Jake the Slayer P13, Liam P14, Umabro rounds off the final points paying position then in P15, Ballint P16, Vintage P17, Astrodron and Decanco then. Fair play to both Astrodron and Decanco as well then, to be fair, for soldier on in this race. Then they've got to the end of the race as well then. P18 and P19 then, you know, the only retirement in this Grand Prix, and what a treacherous Grand Prix it was as well, from the dry conditions then to the very, very wet conditions, let's just say. And well done indeed then as well. Then, and good stuff from Corey Brennan as well. Then says Casey. Rocket Wolf then says, well done Luke then as well. Then good stuff indeed from Rocket Wolf. Sorry, from Luke, I should say. Then there is your podium drivers then as well. Then Sam Newton on the podium then alongside Luke in the Kick Sauber then. And of course the Williams and Corey Brennan once again on the podium as well here tonight. And fantastic. Driver of the day then is Ginger Rage, I think that is. I can't quite tell because it's glitched on my vote on my screen, but I think he's got it then. Ginger Rage then I think confirmed in P6, wasn't it then, for Ginger Rage then? A fantastic result then this season, for this season so far then. He's got himself a fantastic haul of points as well. Then of course the bronze point structure is a bit different as well then of course with the 15 scorers. So Sam Newton then claims the victory then of course fastest lap as well for him. Then Luke P2, Corey Brennan in P3, then Stars P4, Dan then P5, Ginger Rage P6, Winnie P7, Mr. Elite P8, then Dynamo Dan P9, Smithy P10, then IRS P11, then Serious Mushroom P12, Jake the Slayer P13, Liam on his first full-time appearance gets some points, and in P14, then Umabro rounds off the points paying positions then in P15, Palent P16, Vintage P17, Ron P18, Decanco P19, and Jinner in P20, Pit and Quit. Naughty. There we go then. Oh, once we've got the static sorted, we'll get ourselves some interviews underway then, shall we? As we're just waiting for the drivers to get themselves sorted and we'll be underway for the podium interviews. Somebody is very heavily breathing in my ear there, but there we go then. Fantastic stuff indeed. Right, give me 1 second. I'll get this sorted then. We'll start off with Sam Newton. I don't know if Sam Newton has joined us then, but we'll crack on with Luke then. Luke, then a fantastic race from yourself, and of course, this first stint then in the dry, it was a lot different than to the final stint, then, of course. But what were your thoughts then on the dry compound tyres then on the hard compound then? Were you trying to get yourself into the lead of the pack then? There was quite a lot of battling going on then, which cost you a lot of time then to the Ferrari of Sam Newton.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you see rain and it's sort of midway through the race, your instant thought is, okay, got to probably go long, and obviously to go long, you're going to pick hards. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of battling, a bit of contact, which you may have picked up on the stream with me, Jinner and Dan. Not quite sure what happened there. I'll look it back, but yeah, it was quite chaotic. At one point I'm second, and it's just me and Dan, and then the rain comes and Dan makes an unfortunate strategy call, so he disappears, and then after the rain came, it was, to be brutally honest, a very lonely race. 20 odd seconds behind Sam and 7 seconds clear of Corey.
Yeah, it was a bit of no man's land after the rains did start to fall and the gaps sort of emerged. It got a lot more spacious between everybody in the rain conditions there. But did you think you had good pace in the rain then to try and reel him in, or just try and keep the gap to the rest of the field behind you?
I mean, once sort of kind of the pit lane, Sam's 16 seconds up the road, and he showed fantastic pace in that first stint. He was pulling away from me even after the point you'd expect the hards to be a quicker tyre. So at some point my engineer was in my ear, just said, like, look, you're not getting P1, just surrender P1. I haven't been on the podium in a while. I've had a very poor run of form recently, so I just need to get home in P2. And I think my greatest achievement from today is actually not getting a penalty, because I know I'm really bad at track limits most of the time, so the fact I got away with no penalty I will happily take.
Brilliant stuff indeed. Yeah, like I said, especially around here as well, of all tracks, then no penalties on track limits is fantastic stuff indeed as well then. And of course, you're still leading the way in the championship as well after tonight's result. What's your thoughts then going into the second half of the season then? What's the plan of action then for yourself and Kickstarter?
I need to stop making mistakes. Imola got Saudi, I messed up the last corner on the last lap. Could have been an easy podium. Imola messed up by getting a track limits speeding in the pit lane warning penalty. Spain fucked up by just plowing into the back of Jinner, to be honest. So the plan is to iron out those mistakes. I had a really good sort of first 3 or 4 rounds, and I've sort of run out of energy, and Dan's really built up momentum. So I think I need to rebuild momentum. The second half of the season tends to suit me more track-wise. I like the tracks in the second half slightly more. So the action plan is just to stop those stupid mistakes, focus on the consistency, and then see what we can do from there, really.
Brilliant stuff indeed. It sounds like the plan's already set in action then as well then for yourself and for the green machines as well then. Brilliant stuff then from Luke then, of course, P2 tonight here in Canada. And unfortunately nobody else has joined us then, but But well done indeed to Sam Newton, and of course he'll be off to silver then after tonight. We'll be kicking him out, but a bronze that is. But a very good performance indeed then to win the race then for Ferrari then, of course, and of course to Corey Brennan then, double podiums then, back-to-back podiums then for Corey as well then after the Spanish Grand Prix last week, as I keep saying then. But well done indeed then to Corey and the Williams as well tonight then for the podium drivers. We'll catch you in action then next week. Of course, it's a mystery Grand Prix then next week as well. Then Austria, Britain and Hungary are the tracks off the wheel. So we'll be getting one of those three tomorrow, not tomorrow, no, next week I should say. Of course, kicking off then with gold on Sunday, then silver on Monday, and back here for bronze then on Tuesday next week as well. So stay tuned to ALR. There's plenty more action coming up then, and we'll see you very soon.